Well, welcome everyone. We're here to introduce to you Team 9 and their amazing project of worth. First, I'd like you to all cast your minds back just to a few months ago when we were in Dublin doing mini projects of worth. They were all about legal education. Well, our team have had the privilege of looking at this issue in depth over the last few months, looking at their project of worth, redesigning the law classroom on the cheap. What can we learn from teaching and learning methods outside of the law? Great, well, I'd just like to pass you over to Katie now, who's going to tell you a little bit more about our team members.
Thanks, Ruth. So I'd just like our two other mentors to stand up. We have Sebastian, who's our academic mentor from Chile, and also Laura, who's our alumni mentor from Miami. So now to the stars of the show, our students. Our students have been absolutely fantastic. We've really enjoyed working with them. They've worked really, really well as a team, and it's been really a real privilege to work with them. So back in Dublin, when it all started, Michelle told us to challenge our students. She told us to encourage them to innovate, to explore beyond the boundaries, beyond the walls. So Ruth and I took that literally. We grilled them. We grilled them a little bit more over the weeks and grilled them again, taking that to the extreme. And they delivered. They really stood up to the challenge, and they really, really proved themselves, and we were really impressed. So I'd like to introduce you to our students. First of all, we've got Mike from Miami. Mike's been the ideas man, coordinating the team, and bringing it all together on the day. Mike is also, in the past, he's been a cheerleader and is also an authorized wedding official. Next up, we have James on the end there. James is from Philadelphia. James is the finance mind behind the project. Two interesting things about James. He set up a refugee resettlement pro bono program and is the director of that. And also lived in China for 4 years, speaks fluent Chinese, and is often known to sing in Chinese at various weddings. And lastly, we have Anna from Iceland. Anna's been responsible for the marketing and the branding throughout the project. Again, full of surprises. He's been on a TV blind date show and is also a trained tenor opera singer. So that's our team. I'd like to pass you over to Ruth to talk a little bit more about our project of worth.
Brilliant, thank you, Katie. Right, if I could ask everyone in the room to stand on their feet, please.
Stand up, everyone. Come on, quickly. We're not timing.
Brilliant. Great, thank you. Right, if I could ask you to sit down, if you've ever had a teacher, a lecturer, a professor that you found really engaging, that's really helped you to learn. Great, we've got a lot of talented lecturers and professors out there. Right, if I can ask you all to get back on your feet one more time.
Come on, quickly.
Right. We're waking everyone up after lunch, you see. Right, if I could ask you to sit down now, if you've ever had a teacher, lecturer, or professor that you haven't found it very easy to learn from. You've found them boring, you've found them dull. We've got a few very lucky people over here.
Nice picture, James.
But other than that, as you can see, we've got a full house. So, wouldn't it be fantastic if there was a way for those engaging professors to collaborate with other professors who maybe need to fine-tune their teaching style? Wouldn't it be fantastic if there was a way to kind of share ideas and innovate? Well, that's exactly what our team have come up with. So, without further ado, I'd like to pass you over to Team 9 to tell you about their project of worth. Thank you.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the Anyone? Anyone? The Great Depression passed the, anyone? Anyone? A tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which anyone raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government.
Has anyone ever had a professor like this? Anyone? Anyone? Meet Polly the professor. She's just got her first job as a law professor at Sunshine State School of Law, a small, young law school in beautiful Miami. Polly's always wanted to be a professor, and this could be her big break. But it could also be her only shot, and she's never done this before. As you can see here with this chart, the number of self-reported hires for new law professors in the United States is dropping pretty significantly every single year. And this at the same time that fewer and fewer students are choosing to go to law school. There are fewer jobs available, and they're tougher to get. So if Polly wants to do this for a long time, she really needs to nail it. She's one of 7 new professors teaching at Sunshine State this year, all of them non-tenured, and none of them have a guaranteed job next year. For Polly to be successful, she really needs to nail it this time, stand out from the pack, and make it really tough on the administration when they're making decisions. We've polled professors and administrators from law schools around the country, and 2 big factors that come into play when deciding who to retain are student evaluations and course enrollment numbers. When students love a professor, they give a great evaluation, and they tell their friends to take those classes. And when they hate a professor, they warn people away. Stay away from that professor. She is awful. And Polly may not have tenure, but she still has to do all the other things that come with being a professor. She has office hours, research requirements, committees, and she really needs to nail it. There's so many things she needs to do to keep her job, and she really needs to do it right this first time. And Polly's pretty young. Hasn't been that long since she was in law school before. She had professors she loved, she's had professors she hated, and she wants to be memorable for the right reasons. But again, the problem is Polly has never done this before. This may surprise you, it may not, but in the United States, there are no requirements of professors to have a background or training in teaching and the skills that go behind teaching. Very few even have those skills. So this is something, there's a real gap in the market that we sought to address here. For example, how does Polly build a lesson plan? How does she create a syllabus? What does she need to do to engage with her students properly? Who could help her understand the level of work and commitment that needs to go into being a successful law professor? Is there anyone who could give her the guidance she needs to be successful? What if I told you there's now an online tactics library, a community of teachers teaching teachers, where the experienced professors can go and give their knowledge from the years of experience, everything that's worked for them, what hasn't, help people, the new professors with the pitfalls along the way. The innovative teachers, the professors who are using technology in the classroom, finding new ways to engage with their students, what if they could give that advice and help out and pass along their own knowledge that they've cultivated over their experiences and over their careers? There's an ancient Latin proverb that says, by learning, you will teach. By teaching, you will learn. And that really resonated with us. So with that, and inspired by the Roman goddess of wisdom, today we're proud to present to you Minerva. Teach to learn, learn to teach.
Now, an online tactics library, what is that? It's basically an educational platform with a social aspect to it. It's a teaching academy where educational resources can be found in one place. There are instructions on lesson plans, how to draft up syllabi, or assignment ideas, and how to draft different kinds of tests. Now, who is Minerva designed for? We imagine that Minerva initially be targeted to law schools or early career professors in law. But the soft skills that Minerva can help you develop can easily be transferred to other disciplines later down the road. Now, why would you need Minerva? Minerva would help you with better softer skills, like I mentioned earlier, but it would also help you engage the students in the classroom and better the teaching experience, both for yourself and your students. Now, on this slide, you can see the video lessons that we have designed for Minerva. If you're a human being like myself, you can always fine-tune your presentation skills. There's a video there on developing a lesson plan, step-by-step guide, and how to draft an exam hypo, and also how to engage the student in the classroom. Now, in depth into the presentation skills. These skills will better yourselves in communicating with your students, and especially with struggling students. And as the video earlier pointed out, we can all fine-tune our presentation skills. But this is just an example. Now, what we imagine the biggest feature of Minerva will be is the social aspect to it. Imagine connecting with colleagues all over the country, first in the United States and maybe later on internationally, that could give you constructive criticism on lesson plans, ideas on new courses, or even just thoughts on video lessons that you've uploaded. And this is what we think would be the most attractive feature of Minerva. An informal venue where people can chat and talk to each other instead of email. Now, the social aspect, I'll come back to that later, but we imagine that Minerva may impact society. The reason why is that with better teachers or improved teachers, they can more efficiently impart information onto the next generation of lawyers. And that in turn means that the next generation of lawyers imparts its information more efficiently to the next generation. Now, enable connection. With the social aspect, you can be mentored by other professors, connect with other professors, even which brings us to evoke pride. You can open up job opportunities somewhere else in other universities, and it inspires exploration, because Minerva is a venue where professors can share and explore ideas and collaborate, and that is basically what teaching is all about.
Thank you. So Arner has taken us through some of the benefits for Poly, or for our new professor to law. And I want to talk about benefits more broadly for more experienced professors on the platform and the end users, both students and the institutions that enroll them. And I think first it's important to note that this type of platform of teachers teaching teachers has had tremendous success at the elementary level in the US. However, no one has moved in this graduate level education market, and that's why Minerva wants to be first. So first, we have Poly. But beyond that, we have the more experienced professors who we aim to bring onto the platform to provide content for our new professors. Now, why would they do so? We think there are a number of non-financial benefits for them to do so. First, there's increased notoriety. They can have their names on our platform, on the homepage, on the landing page. Second, they have an ability to exert tremendous influence over new professors and legal education generally. So I think the professors in the room can identify with the statement that they have issues that they're very passionate about, perhaps areas of the law that they want to see reformed. We view this platform as a means for them to propagate their own ideas and beliefs in legal education. Lastly, we think that they can also benefit from this democratic exchange and learn from the new inexperienced professors that are coming onto the platform. And finally, schools and the students within them will benefit from an improved product of education. Now, we recognize that for some potential content providers, these professors, they may not be fully motivated by these non-financial incentives. So the reason that PayPal is up here is because PayPal, when in its infancy, relied on a model of paying to acquire users. So they actually would go out and give money to new users to send with PayPal to allow for their exponential growth. So we've allotted some of our startup funding to directly paying premium content providers, that is, experienced professors in legal education that we've identified who we think could really benefit and help new professors in the field. So for those who are not incentivized by what I described before, we believe that these financial incentives will bring them onto the platform. Beyond that, as our platform grows, initially we intend to be fully based on advertising revenues. But as we grow, we aim to diversify our revenue streams and offer other products and have a more fully fleshed out transaction platform. So we want to provide other revenue opportunities for professors on the platform. So first of all, we have a job network, a recruiting portal. We view this as a way for new professors or adjunct professors to really build up a reputation online on this platform. They'll be registering with their real names, they'll be developing real relationships with experienced faculty in legal education, and we think it's a tremendous opportunity for universities, for law schools, and for veteran professors at those law schools to identify new talent in the space and to recruit them. So we believe that we can also benefit from this financially and gain a lot more revenues from this source. Second, we aim to allow our professors to sell premium content. That could be customized video feedback for a younger professor. That could be some of their own lecture content from their law classes. But we want to give them another potential revenue stream on the platform, and we would take a percentage of that as well. Last, one project that we're really excited about that we'd like to add to Minerva in about year 3 or 4 is an exam hypo generator. I think that everyone in this room can sympathize with the fact that exams and assessments are an extremely important part of legal education. They determine a lot of the opportunity sets that we'll have after law school. And we believe that that process could be improved significantly. So through this software tool, we aim to make money, but to provide new and experienced professors a way to generate more exams to improve their assessment process. So in terms of growth opportunities, initially, obviously, we're starting with a really small target market. There are about 20,000 legal faculty in total in the US, and when you look at new or non-tenure track adjunct, it's closer to 10,000. But we're not deterred by that. We think that this platform can be applied to all areas of higher education. So engineering schools, I think, obviously, some of those people could probably benefit from better soft skills. So that would be, I think, a great target market for us to expand into. Medicine, business, all of these graduate schools, I think, could potentially be attracted to Minerva and this type of exchange platform. So an important fact, so there are 1.5 million total faculty in higher education in the US, and 75% of those are adjunct or non-tenured. And I think that's an enormous market that would really benefit from this type of both skill development platform, but also a recruiting portal where they could potentially secure full-time employment or more employment opportunities. And as I said earlier, so for our first about years 1 through 4, we're going to be predominantly monetizing through ad revenues because we want really to build up the traffic on the platform and establish a big network. So we're going to have, it's going to be free to use, and we're going to just monetize through advertising.
We'll go back to the profitability a little bit, but now, thanks to Minerva, Polly has developed the skills she needs to become an effective professor. Her lectures have never been more engaging. Her students are happier, they really are understanding. And other professors are asking her, how did you get so much better? How did you improve? And she can tell them, I improved because of Minerva. There's a quote that really resonates with us that we really enjoy and we really looked at a lot from Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. All it takes is a single spark from professors like Polly, from students who want to be taught better by professors like Polly, from anyone else who wants to change legal education. So to all of you, we say, join us.
At Minerva!
Sorry, I
You
didn't
went
see the.
way over.
I didn't see the time.
Yeah, I was trying to elbow you.
I didn't see it.
Let's line up.
How far over?
Well,
Massive. I
Minerva
had to
gave
stop
you
him.
some nerve
I
to
was
do
trying to kick
that. Wow, that was impressive.
Like
Thank you
2
for that lasting and
had
forever
30
memorable
seconds, I stopped
song,
you.
Minerva,
You
which
had
we should
30
all
seconds,
chant
stop.
out maybe instead of Geronimo
That's what I was
next
saying to look at
time.
I'm sorry.
Great job, team. Really, really impressed. Would love to help once you guys start this for real. I think it's a really great project, and we are really proud to have you here today and proud to have these judges with us. First judge is Nora Bergman, who you all know pretty well. Nora is has been an employment lawyer for many, many, many years, but in addition to that, she's an entrepreneur. She's the founder of Real Practice, and she's also a consultant at Atticus, where she consults and is a business coach on many different facets. She's also a mediator. She is certified in Six Sigma and, of course, in DISC. And all of you know Nora from her great training on what DISC is, what it means to us, and how it can help us be better at collaboration and teamwork and at being LWOWers. Nora has been a thought leader in Law Without Walls for many years and a mentor and a great source of inspiration. Thank you for being here with us. We also have with us Estelle Domart, and Estelle is the founder and dean of École Head, the first private law school in France. And what's unique about that school, aside from being part of LWOW, what's unique about that school is that Estelle really wanted and has succeeded in making a law school that's different, where the classes and the program and curriculum are designed to teach the lawyer of tomorrow also in business. It's like the programs there are very different and unique and centered on teaching both business and law in different ways. Don't be surprised if she makes her students take a literature course so that when they're at dinner with their clients, they have something they can talk about aside from law. So she'll be a great judge on this panel as she teaches teachers. We also have with us Casey Silver.
Hi, Casey.
I have a fun fact about Casey. For those of you that weren't here earlier this morning, Casey is a venture capitalist from Arsenal Ventures. He's also a triathlete, and also, in addition to that, a foodie. I don't know if those two things really go hand in hand. Maybe if you're a foodie, you need to be a triathlete. I'm not sure, but keep sending me these tidbits of information. Virtually, we have with us here Harold Flegelman. Hi, Harold. We are so excited to have you here as well. Harold was a partner with Loeb & Loeb for many, many years in the corporate law department, leading up the entertainment and media practice group. He is an adjunct professor at two different schools, Southwestern in California, and also he's taught a short course here at Miami. And starting this summer, he will be heading up our new LLM in entertainment, sports, and media law. So welcome, Harold. Got a great panel of judges. Take it away, Nora.
Thanks, Michelle. Great job, guys. I just want to say that right up front. Great job. I love the intro. Love Ferris. That was great. Your energy was really great. A few years ago, more than a few, I guess, I was an adjunct professor at my law school and taught alternative dispute resolution for several years. But for my mentor in ADR helping me and giving me the course essentially and saying this is how you teach it, I would have been completely clueless. And so when I hear you talking about Minerva, it strikes me as being that mentor, really being a mentor. And I really love that. That resonated with me quite a bit. I also loved your Margaret Mead quote at the end. One of the things that you guys focused on a lot in your presentation was the importance of soft skills. And I happened to glance up at the Skype chat, and someone had written, we need to start referring to soft skills as professional skills or leadership skills, because the soft skills, especially for someone in the profession of law or other types of professions, are not soft at all, they're hard. They're the hardest things for them to be able to do. So that really got my attention, and I had a question for whichever one of you thinks would be the most appropriate one to answer it. How do you envision people actually being able to develop these soft skills using Minerva?
Well, one thing we actually envision is that professors will upload their own content, their own videos, and seek advice. Like if you saw the chat video we showed, seeking the input on different things, and it's a way to kind of track your progress. These more experienced professors can come in, these ones who have been around for a while and are here, they're in a mentorship role. They can comment on it. They'll notice things, you're pacing too much, or you're not really paying attention to one side of the room, all these different things that it's really hard to think about as you're working and as you're speaking. But as you develop the experience in it, you become more comfortable with it, and it becomes part of you. So it's kind of like film review you do if you have play of a sport or anything. You just keep drilling it in, you're focusing on it, you're getting input, different things like that. And as you get the critiques, and even if you watch it yourself, you're going to notice things about yourself that you don't realize.
Okay, thanks.
I would like to add on that, if I could.
Absolutely.
Also, on Minerva, we be an extensive database on materials that could be useful, including softer skills, like how to network with other people, your colleagues, or something like that, books, articles that have been written on the material. So it'll be just in one place, so you could use that alongside with those video self-improvement lessons that Mike mentioned.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I had jotted down a question, how is the content created? And then James kind of addressed that. Have you guys done any research on how big the audience of potential content providers is? Are there law school professors out there? I know that the collaborative environment exists in elementary school and other schools, but in higher education and postgraduate ed, have you done any research on how big your audience might be to present or create that content for you?
Yeah, I think that we're at an inflection point where a lot more professors, experienced or not, are becoming comfortable with sharing that content online. We identified a number of leaders in legal education who have done things like the flipped or the inverted classroom model, where they put their lectures online and then before class, and then the class is more discussion or group work based. That's gained a lot of popularity, and we have several candidates who have done that well, who I think would be great candidates to share content on our platform. And then beyond that, I think that we have the benefit of leveraging the LWOW network. So there are a number of professors associated with this, and I think second degree connections of LWOW who would be great candidates for sharing content and would be willing to do so. So we think that that's a growing percentage of law professors, but we definitely have names, and at our own schools, I think, who already do this. I know at Penn that I know several who have used the inverted classroom model and already have lectures online on YouTube. So
There's one innovator sitting right over there.
We have that.
Michelle?
Yes.
Format.
Michelle would be a good candidate.
Yay. And you got me thinking, you know, Susan Cartier-Liebel, who's with Law Without Walls and founded Solo Practice University, my mind's kind of going there and thinking, you know, she's constantly bringing in lawyers who have no grounding in how to teach a class or present a class. And so that might be a great partnership for you too. All in all, I thought it was very, very interesting, very engaging. I'm going to leave the viability component to people that know far more about that than I do, but I really enjoyed it. Well done.
Okay, thank you very much for this presentation. I thought it was very funny, so that was pleasant for all of us. I do have several questions for you. I think it's a very interesting concept that you have, that teachers could collaborate and help each other. But my first question, you showed us what a bad professor is. We understand that. Now, could you tell us more about what a good law professor is? What makes a good law professor? Did you talk to some of them, to some of the students? I mean, what's your idea about this?
I can answer that. Recently for my university, I did a focus group to engage the quality of the teaching experience for the students. And most of the answers were based on how engaging the teacher was. He wasn't basically just reading up. We've had some business teachers. We studied business law at Pyrrhus University. We also have the inverted classroom model. But when teachers are basically just reading up text of notes that they easily could send out and we could study them at home. It's the engaging professors, those with challenging assignments, doing, what you call them, work groups, and the engaging professors are the best ones.
And just to touch on that, for example, of a bad professor, I once had one, I'm not going to say any names because I do go here, but he has been using the same, he is not in this room, but he has been using the same yellowed notes for several decades, and I say yellowed because it was not originally on a yellow legal pad. They became yellowed over time. For his lecture every single day, to the point where when I bought a used textbook for his class, every single cold call question he used in the class was underlined in red pen. And thank God, because I could not pay attention to that class, and he liked to cold call on me. So that's the sort of thing, if these people get kind of stuck in a routine, they're stagnant, it's really hard to stay up to date and to be engaged in the class. So that's something that I always identified as what we're trying to avoid and move away from.
Okay, well, you're kind of making my point here. So you're saying a good professor is an engaging professor. So it's not really about learning how to write your syllabus or things that you mentioned in your presentation, but do you think that you can learn to be engaging, or you're born engaging? How can you help a teacher like the one that you were describing become more engaging?
You can absolutely learn to become more engaging, and I could tell you from experience, because until about a year and a half ago, I had massive stage fright. We have a litigation program here in Miami. We're in front of judges every day. We're filming ourselves. We're practicing. We're getting critiqued on the film. All of those little things. A year ago, I would have probably been crying right here. I really couldn't handle it. And it's the sort of thing, the repetition, the practice, the want to get better. I'm undefeated in court now because of that program and nothing else. So it's the sort of thing where you can develop those skills with the right work ethic, with the right assistance from mentors.
Okay. Now, my other question is this. Do you plan to have students participate on Minerva? Maybe you mentioned this and I did not quite catch, or is it only teachers telling other teachers how to go on?
Yeah, from a product development standpoint, that we entertain that, and I could see potentially there are real benefits to that. Obviously increases the value of the platform significantly, especially if it's mostly ad-based revenues because it's all about user numbers. But for us, we really want it to be sort of like a safe, collaborative environment for the professors. So I think maybe if the model's proven and we have the money and the backing to expand into, like, we could have a firewalled platform where, you know, the students are on one side, maybe receiving lecture content online. That might be something down the road, but really for us, we really want to focus on this core market of new legal professors and then expand into new professors in other areas of academia and potentially internationally. So I think for us, that's really what our focus is, but it's a great idea and something, you know,
Well, I think students have a lot to say about how to better professors, so it would be too bad to exclude them from this. Thank you very much for your answers.
That was always James' big favorite thing he wanted to push for throughout, so I'm glad he got to answer that one.
So I agree. Good job, guys. Great intro. I thought the way that you presented the use case by telling a story using Poly was great. It makes it easy to understand. I thought the PowerPoint was good. I think simple and clear kind of storytelling always wins, and communicating your message. So good job there. You talked about your professor that hasn't changed his content in who knows how many years. Can you give me a feel for how often teachers change their content or lesson plans and kind of what the norm is? Is that guy the norm, or are people doing it every year? They're using different cases? How does it work?
When it comes to cases, I think a lot of it stays the same, but a lot of professors tend to, I've found, there's kind of a split between the professors who do kind of stick to the same routine. Maybe they'll change little bits along the way. Obviously, here we study a lot based on case laws and on precedent, so it's a sort of thing that's hard to evolve the actual content that they're teaching, but it's more about the way they present it. Because if you can give the exact same presentation two different ways and have two completely different effects. So that's really more of what we're focusing on in that regard, is making you more engaging in how you say something versus what you say.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about, if you're going to do ads, you're not going to make money for a while.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about startup costs and particularly marketing, how you plan on bringing this to market, the marketing tactics, and kind of how you guys have thought through how much that is going to cost? Would be helpful.
Yeah, so in the first year, we're going to bring on 2 developers, and I think at about $70,000 each in salary, that's competitive with startups generally that I've seen on Crunchbase. And we'll bring on a design person for 70 as well in salary. And, building up the platform itself, I don't think will be that expensive beyond that. In terms of the marketing spend, we're allocating close to $75,000 to pay for content if we have to. We think that's more than enough. We think that professors will be incentivized to share, and we won't really need to spend that much. From a marketing approach, we're hoping to be able to do that without spending a lot of money. Going to law schools, that we're students at now, where we have friends that are students, leveraging our, faculty relationships, and trying to build it that way, sort of grassroots, and also through the LWOW network. That said, there are a number of blogs we've identified that self-reported hire chart came from is a popular blog for new legal faculty. So we'd potentially partner with them to sort of grow the new professor base and market in places like LinkedIn, and then other like scholarship platforms like Scholastica, which is a research platform. But I think that we can do that online advertising cheaply. So in terms of the profitability, as you said, because the target market's so small initially, we're looking at not break even until maybe late year 4. But I think that we're optimistic that once we prove the model within legal education, we can expand pretty aggressively into other areas of academia, and that's really when the platform will grow exponentially and when the ad revenues will grow as well in parallel to that. But we also, as I said, we want to diversify the revenue streams, so we want to add these products like a recruiting portal, a much more targeted LinkedIn within our portal. We want to give professors the ability to sell premium content, and we would take a cut of that. And we also would like to invest in software like this exam hypo generator, which we think could also generate revenues for us beyond ads.
Okay. So you think those other revenue streams will start in year 2, year 4?
Closer to year 4.
And you guys just started with ads. I guess why? I'm wondering why you started with ads, because it feels like this is a big enough problem that somebody would actually pay for this. You don't have to give it away for free. I get the appeal that it's free and it makes it easier to onboard. But I'm wondering if you guys did any research on would somebody pay for this, how much? Because if I'm a new teacher and this is a great resource and I can connect with teachers from all around the world, I might be apt to pay for that, or maybe the school would pay for it. So did you guys do any thinking around that or research?
We did, yeah. I guess we really subscribe to the belief that it's about building the community first, and we don't want to do anything to jeopardize that in terms of cost. So we really want to encourage people to adopt, and to the extent that investors believe in that and would back us in that belief, we'd want to keep it free and roll out value-added services down the line. But really our concern is just building the traffic and putting profitability off a few years.
I had some similar thoughts about other features and kind of when you would loop in students and stuff like that. So can you talk to me about kind of the core feature set in the first year or 2, what I'm getting, and then how you've thought about what'll be the next priorities in terms of development, those types of things? It'd be helpful.
We can start with resource materials. That'll be documents and links to other education sites, education tools that you could use. We could even partner up. We entertain the idea of partnering up with similar education platforms like Socrative or platforms like that. And then we will have probably an online forum where you can ask a question, somebody help me with this. I'm entertaining the idea on creating a course concerning law and psychology. Somebody has experience with this, and then we have the informal chat feature. It's probably a better venue for people to connect with each other instead of email, and probably and the video lesson feature that you can upload videos and even comment on, similar to YouTube, but not less aggressive comments there.
And then when we're talking about year 4-ish, bringing in a software like the exam hypo generator, one of the big reasons behind that as well is the technology is almost there. Right now already, the Associated Press is using natural language software from a company called Automated Insights to write a lot of their articles, a lot of their game write-ups for sports and some of the business, the stock write-ups. Those are done by computer now. Those are not written by a human being. And we've spoken with some people at that software, and we've obviously looked at a lot of exams and even polled a lot of law professors. A single exam hypo takes, we found, a minimum of 10 hours to write, and they write a new one every semester. And about a third of the professors we polled would be willing to pay for that feature alone. So this is something that we think is actually a really viable idea, something we were really excited about at first till we realized the software may not quite be there yet, but we're close. And that's something we really are excited about in the future because there's a huge opportunity there, and it's something that we're on the edge of that being something that we can really grow with.
I'm out of time, so.
Yes.
You're up, Harold.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
I hope everyone can hear me. A couple of observations first. It's very clear that you have a very compelling story to tell, and I applaud all of you for that. This is an area that is of particular interest to me as I enter into the next phase of my career. But I would be remiss if I didn't also make the point, and I'm going to get into this a little bit in more detail in a moment. Even a compelling story needs to be communicated in a compelling manner. And so with that in mind, I would encourage everyone, because I possibly missed 25% of the presentation, please know where your microphones are, particularly if you are soft-spoken. Because more and more presentations are being made virtually, and it's not going to help if someone like me can't hear what you're saying. Let me start with a couple of substantive questions because I am keenly aware of these issues and keenly interested in them. So I have three questions sort of in a row because they're all related, and I think it will save time if I ask them consecutively. Has anyone studied whether there is a correlation between the level of engagement of a professor or the students feel with a professor and the likelihood that they secure a job placement that is satisfactory to them? And the follow-up question, I guess, is how do you pick the mentors? Someone, forgive me, I think it was, I'm losing track of the names, I think it was James said a couple of times, made reference to proving the model. And I'm wondering how you feel the model is proven.
Well, I guess I'll answer the first one. We actually have not looked into that data, but I can tell you here at Miami, we have a great resource of someone who does track all of this, including even what classes certain students took versus how they did on the bar. So we do have that resource. That's certainly something we can go into and dive deeper and go not only into, certain students who took this class by this professor succeeded at this level on the bar, but also here's how they did in their job placements. All that data is available. We hadn't thought of looking at that, so thank you, but it's certainly something, we have the community and the network here to find that out.
There's also the fact that the incentive...
I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you.
Yes, speak up.
You can't hear me now?
Yes, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, there's also the added incentive that with student evaluations, both in the University of Miami and also at my university, part-time teachers, their jobs next year basically depends on student evaluation. So if they don't pass a high enough degree or number, then they're probably not teaching next year. So, but we haven't looked at the numbers of the correlation between the two.
Yeah, because I mean, for the purpose of this question, I'm less concerned about, and this may sound like a terrible thing to say, but I'm less concerned about whether the professor is rehired than I am concerned about whether the students who are engaged by a professor who is rehired are in fact prepared or better prepared to find jobs. So let me put it a different way. Does the model prove itself by the level of retention of professors, or does the model prove itself by linking the performance of the professors to the likelihood that those students will find jobs and be prepared to perform in them?
I think ideally it would be linked, like you said, to how much the students succeed, because ultimately the priority is for every professor to maximize their talents, to be the best version of themselves for the express purpose of being a better trainer of the next generation of lawyers. So early on, I think those are two separate metrics that are both very valuable. Seeing which professors get retained, and based on their evaluations, course enrollments, all the things that can be quantified on their end. Then down the road, we would need obviously a few years of data for this, really determining if these better professors, these more trained ones who are more engaging in the class, are actually leading to better outcomes for their students. Because ultimately, the goal is to create this next wave of great lawyers, and that starts here in law school with great professors.
Right, and to see whether, in fact, there is a correlation between engagement and preparation.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's great. All right, and then another question. I want to follow up on what I think Casey was talking about. One of the sheets was Minerva profitability. Now, is this a program that you would intend to seek outside financing for? I mean, you might approach a firm like Casey's firm and say, you know, we need some startup walking around money kind of a thing.
Yes, certainly. We would need capital to start. I mean, I think we'd be looking for nearly 1.2 million for those first 4 years. So that's not money that we have personally. Obviously, we're willing to work without a salary, but we'd be looking for angel investors or perhaps a firm like Casey's to get us started.
Right. And in that regard, do you see the program as having what I would call protectability? And what I mean by that is that, and Casey, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I would not be at all surprised if, let's say, you made a presentation to Casey's firm or another one like it, and presented them with a budget and projections and all those other kinds of things. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Casey either asked you directly or was reflecting upon what I refer to as the barriers to entry. I mean, if a firm invests in this, do you have a sense for how long it would take or how difficult it would be for someone to come up with a meaningful competitor and just give it a different name, and without infringing on some protectable intellectual property right that you might have in the program?
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, it's a good concern to raise. The real, what makes it defensible would be the user base, getting that critical mass and enjoying the network effects, and really getting the key content providers to be on board and provide content. So in terms of our ability to get those people, we move fast and get the key content providers and get new professors. I think that we can do that as first mover. We have an advantage, and it's such a small target market that we're looking at. There aren't other players who would be attracted to this slice immediately. And as I said earlier, this has been proven in the elementary education space, but those players haven't made any indication that they're going to go into higher education.
Who is it in that space that's doing
There's
well?
teachers paying teachers,
Okay.
which is, it's mostly a transaction platform, so they take a cut. Teachers sell their syllabi, lesson plans
Okay.
to other teachers.
And how many teachers do they have?
I think they have in the millions.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a very, very, very large platform. But just to simplify, I think the answer to that, in our discussions with Khan Academy, what we found and what they said to us is your solution, your success comes down to two things: content and community. Being the first one in there, creating great content, building that community, we have a huge advantage in that space, and that's really what we would be aiming at.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Minerva. Thank you so much for that great presentation.